While there are many people of various faith and creeds who believe in an end-time scenario and base their opinions upon individual views, the theory of the seven empires are also based upon personal interpretation and open for debate. In the book of Revelation, John of Patmos informed mankind through his visions that humanity would be granted seven empires during their reign on earth. Six major empires have come and gone, and according to some intellectuals of religion, the seventh empire is currently rising. During the ancient era of John, the five empires that had already fallen were According to some scholars, the history of the Egyptian Empire extends back to 3500 BC, long before Noah and the Great Flood. The pharaoh ruled the dynasty until the Egyptians were conquered by Cambyses I, who was king of Persia in 520 BC. While Ramses II was probably one of the most well-known rulers who was noted for his horrid oppression of the Hebrew nation, some scholars believe it was his successor, Merneptah, who was the pharaoh during the exodus of the Hebrews, which was led by Moses. The Egyptian Empire ruled the then known world for over 3,000 years. The Assyrian Empire was established around 1320 BC by Tiglath-Pileser I, who expanded the dominion over Western Asia. This empire was at its greatest during the reign of Esarhaddon in 681 BC. He further extended the kingdom to include Egypt and large parts of northern Africa. The Assyrian Empire is credited with dividing the year into 12 months and dividing the week into 7 days. In 606 BC, the fall of Nineveh, which was taken by the Medes and the Babylonians, became the downfall of this empire. Sarkis was the last emperor of this dynasty. The Assyrian Empire ruled for 714 years. Some scholars claim the ancient Babylonian Empire came about before 2500 BC, yet no documentation survives to authenticate the actual rise of this kingdom. One of the earlier leaders was purported to be Nimrod, who was from the lineage of Noah's son Ham. The empire's greatest prosperity included Assyria, Mesopotamia, and a big portion of Western Asia. The most well-known king of the Babylonian Empire was Nebuchadnezzar, who challenged the prophet Daniel to interpret his strange dreams. The empire flourished for at least 2,000 years, and the world capital was Babylon the Great for 1,700 years. The Babylonian Empire was conquered by Cyrus II, who was king of Persia in 538 BC. The Persian Empire, also referred to as the Medo-Persian Empire, was officially established by King Cyrus II in 538 BC, but it was considered a nation as early as 708 BC. In 558, King Cyrus rebelled against the Medes, and his successive wars may have destroyed the kingdom's former glory, but it made Persia a mighty empire. The boundaries of this ancient dynasty included Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, Asia Minor, Egypt, Macedonia, Cyprus, and Tyre. Darius III, who began his reign in 336 BC, was the last king of Persia. Alexander the Great overthrew the empire in 330 BC, which resulted from the slaying of King Darius, and it was made part of the Greek Empire. The Persian Empire lasted 208 years. The Greek Empire dates back to the 3rd century BC, when Alexander the Great conquered the Persians and made his kingdom larger by annexing parts of Asia, Africa, and Europe. While this empire attained its height of prosperity under Alexander, his reign was a short one of just 7 years. After the death of Alexander the Great, the vast empire was divided among his 4 generals. Ptolemy I, who was the most famous of his commanders, founded a dynasty in Egypt. In 279 BC, the Gauls invaded and threatened the kingdom's stance when states rose in the west. It wasn't until 146 BC and the capture of Corinth when the Greek Empire fell and became part of a Roman province. The Greek Empire endured for 184 years. The established empire that was reigning during John's ancient era of the 1st century AD was the Roman Empire. Was officially declared an empire in 31 BC, but it was a vast dominion as early as 753 BC. The Grand Kingdom extended from the Euphrates River to the east, to the Atlantic Ocean to the west, and from the deserts of Africa to the south, to the Danube and Rhine rivers to the north. Romulus, the founder of Rome, was the first of its many emperors, and the dominion remained a kingdom until 509 BC. From 509 to 31 BC, this land was considered a republic. Ancient Rome was completely destroyed by the Gauls in 390 BC, but soon after the grand city was rebuilt. Rome reached the height of its glory and became an empire under the reign of Augustus Caesar. The fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD occurred when the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, yielded to the Byzantium nation and brought about the great kingdom's collapse. Rome remained the capital under Byzantium rule until 800 AD, when it reverted to Italy. While the Roman Empire lasted 507 years, the dominion of Rome ruled for 1,229 years. These 6 mighty empires have long since come and gone. The last empire to rule upon earth is commonly referred to as the revived Roman Empire. Will rise out of 10 nations and become a great one-world power. Many scholars and philosophers believe that this final empire has been making a gradual entry into our modern-day world since the mid-20th century. Some view the United Nations, which was formally organized in 1945 to maintain peace and security, as being the forerunner for the revived Roman Empire. Others believe the European Union, which came about through the Treaty of Rome in 1957, will rise to that great one-world power. In the Christian Bible, the book of Daniel reveals that the last empire will be exceedingly strong, as well as diverse, and consist of 10 kingdoms, which is also referred to as 10 horns. Both the United Nations and the European Union are strong international organizations with much ethnic diversity among their members. While the European Union consists of more than 27 countries, the 10 nations of the Western European Alliance have a completely separate status as permanent members. The other nations who joined after the permanent or original members have only an associate membership or an observer status. Likewise, the United Nations is made up of 10 bioregions that have been established around the world. Daniel's prophecy of the revived Roman Empire states that the Antichrist will rise to great power from out of the 10 kingdoms. Daniel's prophecy of the revived Roman Empire states that the Antichrist will rise to great power from out of the 10 kingdoms. The last and final kingdom to reign on earth will ultimately fall, and evil will be obliterated. Then, according to Christian, Islamic, and Jewish religions, a judgment day for all mankind will be conducted by the great Creator, followed by the Messianic era. The prophets and oracles of antiquity forewarned of the end times so long ago. Today the scholars, theologians, and philosophers who believe mankind is currently living during the time of the end continue to implore us, mankind, to take into consideration the holy books of the world, encourages humanity to not only be aware of the signs of the times, but to diligently watch for them. In doing so, mankind adheres to the warnings and thus prepares for a great Holocaust that will one day affect the entire race of humanity.